I shall be taking you through this very vast topic of product management in a very short capsule, and with a subtopic we can say, that is how to manage a product or how to develop a product in the pandemic situation. So we are going to take that window, and through that we are going to look at various aspects of product management and development. I will be talking of product development and the strategy of product development. Rahul will take us through a few examples of how a product is to be managed in the pandemic situation, right? So let me begin very broad that as humans, since human life has been recorded, we are all consumers. That is, that our life is driven by consumption, and we try to fulfill our basic needs uh, by consuming various products. So, right from maybe 10,000 years back when life was recorded, we've been consuming products to fulfill our basic needs. Over the period of time, these basic needs have been fulfilled, and we have moved to comfort needs and convenience needs. All in all, this requirement through basic needs or the comfort needs and convenience needs leads us to consumption, and consumption is of products and services. Going further, if we see how the economy has evolved, the economy has always been with a basis of consumption. The foundation has been consumption. So if we go 100 years back, we were a goods economy. That is, we were consuming products. We were consuming products made by entrepreneurs, made by people who had innovative ideas. We were consuming furniture or utensils or vegetables. So our economy was based on that 100 years back. Subsequently, along with goods, along with products, tangible products, the services around the product got evolved, and we became more of a service economy. Today, of course, services are much larger than goods. So, services evolved, such as banking, such as investments, such as airlines, such as travel. All this had an aspect of service. So, it continues to be a goods and services economy. Of course, every tangible product has services around it. So we used to buy a car 50 years back, that's it. We bought only the car. But now we buy it for many services associated with it, after sales, repairs, maintenance, and so on. Subsequently, in the 1980s, human mind, the left brain has become more active. We have more access to knowledge and information. And especially this change has happened with internet. And internet has given us knowledge and information on our fingertips. So earlier we used to have a newspaper which would carry a 2 day old news or a 1 day old news. Today we are real time. And today we don't buy any product. Any consumption that happens first on the internet. So this is the era of knowledge and information based economy. Subsequently, in today's scenario, we don't buy a product simply as a single product. We buy it as an end to end. We see how is the experience that we get as we go through buying a product. And we see how the consumption happens. We see how easy the consumption is and how the ease remains throughout the consumption, throughout the life of the product. For example, Maruti has introduced a Nexa showroom, which is to create an experience of buying a Maruti car. Maruti earlier did not create an experience with its earlier models. It was only selling a product without an experience. Today, it has felt the need to create a showroom like Nexa, which is an experience and tries to compete with the experience giving competitors like Hyundai or others. So this is how we have changed our consumption, right? The foundation remains consumption, but it has sort of evolved from goods to services to knowledge-based economy to experience economy. Now, another thing to see that how is consumption and marketing associated? What is the link? Now, what you see here on the left in the table of consumption stats is the top 10 countries uh, consumption expenditure, right? So United States is at the top and EU and so on. What you see on the right is the advertising or marketing spend. So what we see is that US, which consumes one third of the consumption of the world is in US, and uh, a large part of marketing expenses also in US. So if you see the right side table, and if you see the table in the middle, there is a strong connect between the countries who have a higher consumption and the marketing expenses. I mean, look at the list: United States, EU, China, Japan. Similarly, the list on the right has the same countries. Now, what does this indicate? This indicates that uh, these are the countries where maximum marketing happens and maximum consumption happens. There is that very straightforward connect, right? And we also study marketing. Books or the scholars or academicians or research, a lot of it happens in US. We the books that we follow are from American scholars like Kotler, Keller, Baker or Hart, all are Americans. So, in fact, the definition of marketing is given by the American Marketing Association, AMA. So, there is a direct connect between consumption and marketing expenses, and that is what we are seeing as far as we see India. The increasing GDP means that there will be increased consumption. Consumption will need marketing, right? Now, how has marketing evolved? So, I'm taking you from a very broad opening to much narrow marketing, and then we go into product. So, how has marketing evolved? As we discussed that about the after the Second World War, between the First and Second World War, it was goods marketing. We were making products which were we were capable of making. So, if I was capable of making a furniture, I would make a furniture and sell uh, handicrafts and sell that. That was goods marketing, how to make a product and sell it. Personal selling was the most common tool, channel. Then in these are books. These are the first book on marketing was written for goods marketing by Philip Kotler in the 1960s. Then Marketing 2, which was the second book written by Kotler, is on the understanding that emotion is a stronger trigger to buy than logic. Marketing started moving into the minds of the customer. They started understanding the customer and selling the product with that understanding that there is logic and emotion. Human being is made up of both, and marketing started using both these triggers with creative advertisements. That was the 50s and 60s and 70s. Around the 60s, that is the marketing 3.0, Kotler gave us the marketing management framework. It essentially said that focus on the customer, try to understand the needs of the customer. And how do you understand the needs of the customer? The needs of the customer can be understood with environment understanding, with uh, competition understanding, with strategy understanding, with consumer behavior understanding. And then we go into making a product by identifying the gap. Subsequently, we make strategies to promote the product, which is the 4 Ps. And then we go into the making of a product into a brand. A brand name carries certain image, and that is created with promotion. That was the third marketing 3.0. Marketing 4.0, as I discussed in 1990s, we went into digital and we started looking at giving more information, more knowledge, because customer was craving for knowledge, customer craving for information. And subsequently, today's marketing, the book that you see, the cover of the book that you see as Marketing 5.0 is written by Kotler May 2021, just this year, last month. And it talks of marketers going deep into the skin of the customer and understanding behaviors more deeply and designing products and services and offerings as per the customer's behaviors. Uh, Now, within this marketing, one important strategy is the strategy of product. And when we see that consumption is what is done by all of us as humans, then what is made available? A product is what is made available for consumption. And when you look at the customer needs and design a product, then you are adding value to the product. Without products, there would be no markets, no businesses. So products are at the center, at the core. And in most marketing books, we study products as one of the four P's, the other P's being place, price, and promotion. But within that product also, we focus on new product development. But what is seen today is that product is the most important part of strategy of any business, any marketplace. So at the core is a product strategy, and we also see that innovation is a very important part of product as a strategy. An innovative idea can give you a lead over competition. Now, what is happening in this marketing function? There are a lot of changes that have happened. As I said, that America is the country from where marketing has emerged, and this is a country which is a highly marketed country and huge consumption. As we see, one third of consumption is the US. And all these countries which are following the practices of marketing, which includes India. India is doing extremely well in terms of the marketing function. And as you see the GDP increasing, the consumption will increase and marketing will do well because India has a good source or resource of marketers and a good pool of education, which marketers which come through this education and create the function of marketing. So, what has happened in this? We are seeing that there is complete customer orientation. All companies, SMEs, small companies, they are focusing more and more on customer orientation. This customer orientation is increasing. There is no longer a, a way of looking at business from the competency point of view. It is from the customer point of view. And we are becoming market driven. As I said, look at the example of Nexa or look at Hyundai, which makes SUVs today because the need of the market is SUVs and it is becoming very fast, doing better than even Mahindra and Mahindra and SUVs. So we are becoming customer oriented and we are becoming market driven. There is global competition, all the more requirement for a product which will compete globally. So Amazon came after 4 years of Flipkart and Snapdeal, and Amazon became number one. Starbucks came after 5 or 6 years and became number one as a coffee bar. So global competition, even Alibaba operates in India. And this global competition comes with a full-fledged marketing, good marketing practices. Another thing that has happened is that we used to buy, my generation or my previous generation used to buy only a Bajaj scooter. Today, we are spoiled for choice. There is variety seeking behavior, which is being seen more and more. I mean, uh, Amazon sells you multiple varieties of the same product. So just look for a product category and you get multiple choices. This variety seeking behavior means that there is acceptance and requirement of multiple products under a category. If you go back 30 years, probably Bajaj scooter was the only scooter that was sold in India. Just look at the market today. Uh, Another thing is that mass communication or mass mediums have become ineffective. We don't see products being successful on TV and radio ads only. You need internet ads, digital ads, YouTube ads, and so many of them. And this means that the product, how it has to be promoted, will be a different ball game altogether. And that has to be incorporated, right? So the product and the promotion strategy has to be aligned. Another thing is that there is personalization. I mean, look at your bank, look at your checkbook. It has a name written on it, right? There is personalization of a bullet. You can personalize the color of the bullet. You can personalize the silencer sound. You can personalize your laptop. You can buy it on Dell and personalize it. So 30%, 40% of the product is left for personalization. Companies make 60% of the product and leave the rest for personalization. And then not a single product is purchased just as it is. There are value additions which help in selling the product. Another thing that has happened is that uh, in the past, in the past, marketing was about demographics. That is, you sell to a certain age group or certain gender. Today, it is about sell it to a certain mind. So we are moving from understanding just the age and gender and probably the requirement of a certain geography. We are understanding more into the, we are going more into the minds of the customer and selling the product. Uh, the today no longer the consumer is away from the company. The consumer and company are together. The messages have not are not downloads. Advertisement in the newspaper is a download. There is a dialogue which happens on the internet. Uh, so there are a lot of changes that we see. The past and the future of marketing is very different. So when you are making a product strategy, it has to consider these aspects. Moreover, when we look at a product strategy, we have to look at it from the point of view of competition. And in this module of product, we also look at uh, the Porter's five forces, which tell us how to analyze competition. We also look at the four P's strategy, how to make this strategy for the product. And we also talk of the growth strategies with the help of an Insoft's matrix. So these are how to compete with your product. Naturally, there are going to be some exact prescriptions which are going to be given about how exactly do you do, right? So we talk of competing through product, competing through value or design or innovation or service. A different uh, method is applicable in a different situation. So that is exactly what is discussed in detail in product as a strategy. Now, as I said that I will take you through two examples, which are recent examples. And the person you see in this image is the CEO of Pfizer. And this is a case study of last month from Harvard Business Review. And the cases of the CEO of Pfizer on how he developed the vaccine in record time. So if you we start going through this point by point, and this is a chronological description of the events that happened, right? So I'll just run through them. On the next slide, we shall see that what is the requirement of a product manager, right? So in Jan 2020, COVID-19 came into the radar of the CEO, Albert Bourla. And in Feb 2020, Bourla announced that Pfizer will play a major role. Pfizer and BioNTech came together. At the beginning of March, BioNTech developed 20 molecules for research. And 11th of March, COVID was declared a pandemic by WHO. What is important here is that the identification of the market by the CEO much before it was declared a pandemic. It was in the initial stages only in China and Europe, some parts of US. The countries were not very clear. The WHO was not very clear, but the Pfizer CEO was very clear that this is going to be a very big infection. Uh, Around the 13th of March, the processes were set in place, and 16th of March, Pfizer allocated $3 billion for the research of the vaccine. Now, see, in any research in pharma, the allocation is of about 800 million to $1 billion. But Pfizer knew that this allocation has to be more, simply because if this is a pandemic, you need something which will be in restricted timelines, which will need more candidates or molecules to be tried, and which would need simultaneous approach rather than sequential approach. So the fund allocation was done right in the beginning instead of going phase wise. On the 12th of April, the number of candidates were reduced from 20 to 4, that is, 4 molecules remained. By 12th of May, only 2. 23rd of April, the trials began. July 20, the decision after the animal trials were done that they would do a simultaneous approach rather than a sequential approach, that they would do phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 at the same time for the 2 candidates instead of following it as a sequential approach. Albert Bourla decided that they would take this decision as a very important strategic decision because he sat with the researchers and looked at the most aggressive timeline possible. And Albert Bourla gave them 6 months. Imagine 6 months as against 8 to 10 years, which is normally taken to develop a vaccine. On 8th of November, the hearing of results of the trial, internal hearing, that is, the top management was to be told by the researchers that what is the outcome of the trial. So by 31st of December 2020, Pfizer had made 74 million doses, and March 21, 300 million. In 2021, the uh, revenues from the vaccine for Pfizer is going to be $20 billion. How big is this? The revenue of Indian pharma industry domestic is 15 or $20 billion in a year. Pfizer is going to be equal to the revenues of Indian domestic pharma with one product, that is a vaccine. Now, what is the learnings from this? Very important for a product manager is to be able to spot an opportunity. I mean, one has to be alert and looking around. Are you able to spot that opportunity which can make the difference? Just look at it. One decision, one spotting of opportunity changes the fortunes of Pfizer in such a big way. And it is just the beginning. We don't know how big is this going to be. So spotting an opportunity, the ability to look beyond, the ability to look ahead. Major decisions that Pfizer took. One was the portfolio management. That is, it is vaccine is a portfolio for Pfizer, and are they there in that? How important is first mover advantage? If they move first, they are faster than competition. They could be much bigger than anybody else. The decision to do research on a synthetic as the molecule rather than the natural one, the mRNA. The funding allocation right in time. The timelines, setting an aggressive timeline of 6 months because you know that what would be the situation then. The clinical trial strategy. The manufacturing decision which was taken before the trial was over, because every Monday and Thursday he used to have a meeting with the researchers. And at one point in October, November, before the trial was over, manufacturing facilities were, they began setting it up. New product launch strategies, that is aligning with different countries. And then the life cycle management, the introduction, and then of course the growth and has to be done. A case in point is Israel, where Pfizer has vaccinated 80% of the population. There are new cases coming up, the Delta variant, but there is not a single case, only one case which has been fatal. Otherwise, they have been very light and mild. So that is one case or one example of Pfizer. Another example, if you see, am I going a little fast? Maybe I am just a little watching the time. So if I'm going fast,
Oh,
please
it's
tell.
perfect. It's perfect. Please go.
Another example is of the insurance company. When there was a 26/11 attack, and after the 9/11, insurance companies world over created an insurance which was for the infrastructure. So they created a terrorism attack insurance. Okay. Now, this product was given in India also. It became very big because of the 9/11 attack in the US. And after 26/11, this product was created in India. Now, it was to ensure the infrastructures. whether it is a building, a private residential complex, or a business complex, or a government office, or so on. Now, this product was not used by many government establishments. They did not use it. Of course, private companies used it, and private companies looked at it as mandatory, and they used it. Uh, it is available. Is it available now? It is no longer being used by by residential complexes, although they approach the residential complexes. So, what has happened to this product? Is this product a success or failure? Today, this product is about 400 crores because only some private companies are using it. Nobody else uses it. It is 400 crores. There are no claims. Only 2% of it are claims. So there is no claims to it. So can we call this product a success or is it a failure? It is only 400 crores in these so many multiple years that it has been there. Or look at the COVID insurance, COVID Mediclaim, which was a product which came up after Corona, and an 8,000 rupee policy was created for all. Now, what has happened to this? There are multiple claims, and the companies have lost about 15,000 crore rupees. So, a product gets created because of a certain event, in this case, a COVID event. And if you see it just 1 year down the line, we are seeing that it is creating major losses for the company. On the other hand, you have you have a terrorist attack, and that creates a product, but that becomes a very small product. So forecasting how big the product will be 2 years and 5 years and 20 years down the line is a very important task for a product manager. And this ability to look at the big picture and how the environment will shape up, is an important part of product management. So these are few or two examples from my side, which I thought I will share, and a basic of product as a strategy. Two examples from IT, Rahul will give you, and then I'll close the session in the end with some more details. Yes, Rahul.
Thank you, sir, for all the insights and sharing us the learnings about the product development in pandemic. Let me start sharing my screen. Hi, participants, good evening to you. Can you see my screen? Can somebody confirm?
Yeah, perfect.
Is it in the
Full screen mode. Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. So I'm going to talk about product management in pandemic. So how do the existing products should be managed from product manager's perspective? That is what is going to be the core theme of my talk. And I'm going to share two examples from software industry, and then I'll share a small example about how to create an innovative product. And that would be for a short, very brief example. So let's look at the growth of internet penetration rate in India. So if you look at the data, the internet penetration rate in India has gone up in the last 6 to 7 years significantly. So the data is from 2007 till 2021. And if you analyze this data from 2007 till 2014, the internet penetration rate when Flipkart was launched in India was only 4%. And till 2014, it grew till 18%. So there was only 14% of growth. And then from 2014 till 2021, we are now at 50%. That means the growth has been significant during this period. And two important events have happened in this period, which has impacted heavily to the growth of internet penetration rate in India. One is Mukesh Bhai announcing the Jio SIM cards free of cost, and that led to drastic adoption of internet across India. Second event, Narendra Modi ji announced the demonetization, and that led to the digital payments getting accepted, and then that converted a lot of merchants into digital journey, and they got digitalized. So that's how the internet penetration rate in India has increased significantly. And with again, uh, Ambani announced that he'll be offering a smartphone. This internet penetration rate is going to shoot up again by 20% in the coming years, and that we are going to see that. Now, let's talk about the impact of the internet penetration rate and how it has impacted the software products or the consumer purchase into travel industry. So, and during the pandemic, one of the most impacted industries is travel. So I'm going to talk about now. If you look at this report, this has been taken by from Bain and Company, Bain Analytics, and the report talks about how India travels. So on the left hand side, if you look at the data where transport and lodging is written, out of $50 billion that is spent on travel in 2018, 40% of that is spent on through online channel. That means the travel bookings are done through either IRCTC, online travel applications like Make My Trip, Clear Trip. So 40% of $50 billion comes to $20 billion has been a market share that online travel applications have been contributing to. And on the right hand side, if you see, that is the consumption spend. So when we travel, we also do spend on a lot of activities that we do while traveling. Out of that, only 5% is being done through online mechanism or online channel. Rest 95% is being done through offline channel. And if I aggregate both of that, then it is seen that nearly 25% of the total Indian travel spending is happening through online. And then there is a lot of market still available, around 75% to be captured through the online travel apps or online travel mechanism. And when the report was created, it predicted that around 35% will be growth from 25% due to internet penetration growth rate in India. Now I'm going to talk about the example how product managers of Make My Trip managed the pandemic situation. Now the situation was that the lockdown was announced in on March 2020, and what happens to such companies and how do product managers deal with this situation is going to be the core theme of my talk. So there is an anxiety amongst all the passengers whose booking is during the same period, like now 3 to 4 months, there is a complete lockdown, bookings are impacted, the customer is worried that what about my money, will I lose that, because it is very difficult to get a refund from an airline industry, right? If anybody has most of you might have faced that situation, right? So the very first activity for a product manager at that point of time is to handle the emotions of the customers. How do you manage that anxiety and how do you remove that fear from the customers? So what product managers at most of this online travel applications, what they did is they immediately took out the list of impacted bookings from the system and sent them an immediate notification that your bookings are safe and you will be eligible for a free reschedule or a full refund based on the airline rules. Every airline had a different rule at that point of time. Then the second activity that a product manager does at that point of time is he thinks about monetizing as well as at that point of time. So they included COVID insurance as a product that was sold in most of these online travel applications. The third activity is that rescheduling, as we know, that has got some fees, penalty fees attached to it in a normal situation. However, during such situations when there is a complete lockdown, the rescheduling has to be offered free of cost. So a product manager goes back to the engineering team and asks them to update the algorithm of the rescheduling feature, or some of the online travel applications, even the rescheduling feature has to be rebuilt so that customer can do a self-service, because there will be a huge number of customers lining up to go to the rescheduling activity rather than going for a new booking. Now comes the another important aspect of a product manager, which he sees. Now the lockdown has been announced, customers are in panic, they're already stressed out because of the lockdown, and the next thing they will do is they'll start calling the customer care. right? Now, at that point of time, there'll be a huge demand to the customer call center. Now, how does a product manager manages the load of the operations team at that point of time? So he has to think of technology, using technology to solve the problems of his team and save them from that surge in demand. Another added challenge was there that when the lockdown is announced, half of your customer care support team or most of the customer care support team is not available in office and they are operating from home. So you have to think of some automatic mechanism. So use of chatbots to answer the general customer request was introduced. Then at that point of time, the most important thing that was to be shared with the customers was the travel rules. Like every state had different travel guidelines. For example, if I have to travel from Pune to Ahmedabad, then landing at Ahmedabad has got certain quarantine rules, whether I'll be quarantined for a 14 days or a 7 day. And then should I be carrying my RT-PCR report with me or not? So all of these information has to be provided to the consumer at that point of time to handle the anxiety, remove that fear of travel, and then make their journey a good experience or a seamless experience. So at that point of time, managing that emotions of the customer and then managing that was an important activity for a product manager. Another important feature which government made mandatory during that point of time was web check-ins. So web check-ins got mandatory during that period. So most of these companies had to build in that feature, and as a part of that activity, even Make My Trip, what Make My Trip does is that they started selling seats as a compulsory activity. When they take you through that flow of booking, web check-in step comes, they ask you to buy a seat, which is an added, I would say, ancillary revenue generation activity for Make My Trip. So that is another activity that product manager thinks at that point of time to monetize, right? Another important information about the e-pass requirement. So that's about the learnings that a product manager should be vigilant during such situations and have empathy for your customers and respond to the changing environment rather than going for building new features in the product at that point of time. uh, Go for how can you help the customers more, how can you solve their problems, what are the key internal triggers, which what are the fears and how can you remove them through providing them right set of information or providing them notifications like, do not worry, your bookings are safe and you're going to have a smooth journey. We'll be either refunding your money or you'll be eligible for a one free reschedule whenever the bookings will be open, whenever the travel will be open, right? So that's, and then you have to think about using technology to solve all of these customer problems, right? And at the same time, you have to think about monetizing. So that's about first example. How do you manage the product during pandemic? Now, the second example, which most of us have faced, and first of all, a question like, did anybody face a problem joining this meeting, Zoom meeting? Or was it smooth, convenient,
You can
easy?
raise your hands. You can
Yeah,
raise
or
your
you can
hands.
unmute and just show your video and then say me yes.
Yes, you can unmute. Yes,
Yeah,
anybody had
are
a
you there?
problem joining
Are you
Zoom
there,
meeting?
guys?
No.
No, so it was seamless, right?
No, no. Yeah,
Okay,
seems
awesome.
it was seamless.
It was seamless. Thank you so much. So I'm going to talk about the pandemic situation and how work from home has impacted everybody's life. So whenever such events happen, it changes our lifestyle, it changes the behavior, it changes how we operate in our life. So I read that around 100 years back there was a flu, and it created a huge impact on the medical industry and the medical health policies in each and every country had improved after that. Like in 1900s, there was Spanish flu. And then this pandemic has impacted to our working styles. So most of us are now collaborating virtually and we have to adopt to work from home, right? So I'm going to talk about an example of Zoom. First of all, thanks to Eric Yuan, who founded this company, and we are able to connect very easily and collaborate together. So I'm going to talk about Zoom's boom and how did they handle the load, and what was so special about Zoom that it got adopted easily. Even AMA has adopted Zoom, and why not Microsoft Teams or Google Meet? So I'm going to talk about that example, and I'm going to share a couple of learnings from that example. What should be in the mind of the product manager when they build the product, and how do they scale the product? How do they handle the demand? How do they handle the surge in the demand, right? So let's look at the data here. In December 2019, there were only 10 million daily meeting participants on Zoom. And this was before the pandemic was announced. In March 2020, there were 200 million daily meeting participants that were happening uh, on Zoom. Imagine a 20 times of load on Zoom. April 2020, the number went to 30 times of load on Zoom. Now, this surge in demand, Zoom was able to handle it without any disruption of service. I have attended weddings on Zoom. I have attended बच्चों का मुंडन ceremony on Zoom. So everything, चलो Zoom पे आ जाते हैं. And then Zoom became so popular. Everybody, you can ask anybody. So how did they manage that scale? Uh, they used technology. One is they hosted everything on AWS and Oracle Cloud Services so that they could easily spin up a new server, and then they can handle the load, and then they can also spin down the servers when the load is not there. So that way they can also save the cost. Another important thing is like right now I cannot see the video of most of the participants, but if you look at the video quality of Zoom, it is awesome as compared to Microsoft Teams. My experiments with Microsoft Teams have been pathetic. So I'm going to share about those examples in the couple of slides. Um, and then what did Zoom did special? So they adjusted the video quality based on the local network speed. For example, there is a so right now we are running at 60 Mbps. The network which we are talking from Pune is at 60 Mbps, whereas the network in Ahmedabad might be at a similar range or even might be at more Mbps. The speed of the network might be more. However, in some cities, the speed is not as that great in metropolitan cities, right? So Zoom knew about this design, about this aspect of the user experience, and to provide the better user experience of high video quality, they use the technology called as multi-bitrate encoding, and this adjusts the video quality based on the local network speed and based on the demand on the uh, on the platform, right? And then there is one more additional point that they did is like they'll connect you to the nearest server. So if somebody of the participants is into tech domain or software domain, they'll very well understand that if they connect it to the nearest local server, the speed and the connectivity is awesome, and then you have a good call, right? So let's look at some of the data here. How Zoom can big beat how Zoom was able to beat big players like Microsoft Teams, Google Meet. They are very big players. They have deep pockets, a lot of money, and a lot of technological strength as compared to Zoom, which just started up in 2011 by Eric Yuan. By the way, Eric Yuan was the founder of WebEx in 1997. He was the engineer who founded WebEx, and then WebEx was acquired by Cisco in 2007. So let's look at the data of Zoom. So Zoom is at $2.65 billion as compared to WebEx, which is a player in the same industry since long. And Microsoft Teams is at 6.8. Google Meet's data is not available, but Microsoft Teams $6.8 billion is because Microsoft is not selling Microsoft Teams individually. It sells it with a bundled product with Office applications like Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. And if you look at the meeting participants, Zoom is leading there as well. So how could Zoom beat these big tech organizations, right? So I'm going to do a comparison in this slide, and then I'll show you a gist of the feature comparison. I think we are running a little short on the time, so I'll go through this very quickly, right? So the target group of Zoom was small businesses, small educational organizations, and they are more consumers, like they're targeting to masses. Microsoft Teams targeted to enterprises, mid-size and large organizations would primarily cater to using Microsoft Teams, right? Then Google Meet is more towards consumers and towards startups. They adopt easily to Google Workspace, right? Then the pricing factor, Zoom at that point of time offered free for 40 minutes, and it spread very quickly. Chalo Zoom pe aa jate hain. And then they also offer a bundle pricing for 1300 rupees for 1 to 9 users per month. And then again, the bundle pricing increases from 10 to 100 users, and then 100 to 250 users. So their pricing model is more catering to not more than 250 to 400 to 500 users. However, Microsoft Teams is being adopted more at big multinational organizations and educational institutes who are looking forward to it. And the pricing of Microsoft Teams is 125 per user per month, similar to Google Meet. So Google Meet is in the same range of Microsoft Teams, what Microsoft Teams is offering. I'll talk about the user experience. Very simple on Zoom, very intuitive. Anybody with link can connect on Zoom. And Zoom, the word itself is very casual. Microsoft Teams, it seems like we are going for a meeting collaboration and more for a corporate kind of a formal and an office term, right? Google Meet, again, a meeting term. So it is also again more formal and office oriented. Now, Microsoft Teams, I have had very pathetic experiences, complex and not very user friendly. It takes a couple of clicks to uh, start a new meeting or maybe connect to a new meeting. Then you have to leave, then rejoin and reconnect. Sometimes the video lags. Then there is a problem with Microsoft Teams. Google Meet, it's again super simple and very easy to use. One tap click to schedule a meeting and one single click to join a meeting. However, onboarding experiences, Zoom, you can, the user gets onboarded, simply plug and play. You just get the link, download the application, and then you are through it. For Microsoft Teams, you need a special Microsoft account to get onboarded to Microsoft Teams. For Google Meet as well, if you don't have a Google account, you'll not be able to get access to it. Security, privacy issues. Now, this is an important element, how Zoom's product managers or the CEOs handle it. So Government of India also announced during March or April that Zoom is not a secure application and there are problems with its security. It is not highly encrypted. Whereas Microsoft Teams and Google Meet, they catered more towards the organizational needs and hence they were highly secure. So in spite of that, what product managers at Zoom did is like they took all the feedback from the customers very seriously and they addressed all of those challenges. They came up with a blog that we are also secure. We have incorporated all the security measures in our product and you can start using the service without any disruption. So that's how they manage the situation. So listening to your customers and then understanding their what stops them from using the product and then handling the customer emotions at that point of time and then increasing the adoption rate of the product. Now, these are the feature lists. However, I won't be able to go through them at a depth because of the time limitation right now. But let me take you through the learnings or the differentiations that Zoom has created. The strategy for Zoom was it targeted only to the video conferencing, video first strategy, and providing the excellent high video quality and class user experience. These are the differentiators that Zoom has, and that's why we are talking on Zoom today. Easy onboarding is again an element, right? They were targeted to small businesses and masses at a scale, and they have used a smart usage of the technology to ensure that there is a high video quality and understand the challenges of the network across different geographies, right? Then these are the couple of learnings that we could get from the example of the Zoom, right? I'll take you to the last example, which is about an innovation. Now, this is a product called as Dunzo. This is available in 8 cities today. It is available in Pune. What it does is during this pandemic situations, it is very useful. Like for example, somebody is affected by COVID and you want to send food parcels or medicines to them. This is a local parcel available. I think a similar service is available in Ahmedabad called as Saral. What they did is like the identification of the need is an amazing factor here. So you identify the customer need and then build a product around it and then offer a value. So what value does this product offer by providing this service of local delivery is like it saves the time. Today time is more than money. You can simply click, do some clicks on your smartphone and a local delivery guys arrives at your doorstep You give in the package, it delivers it at the location, and that's how it operates. You save the effort of traveling. You save the effort of getting dressed up and then going to the just to deliver that particular document or a food item to your relatives to their place, and then you save that effort, right? Super fast. It gets delivered into 15-20 minutes. They operate in the range of 40 kilometers, especially cities like Ahmedabad, Pune. Traffic is a very big challenge there, and then same time could be utilized to do some other productive work, right? So that's how they are offering a value, and it's an amazing product which is coming up. And then Swiggy is also started copying the same business model of this local delivery. Swiggy Jenny is a product. So that's a short talk about product innovation from my side. Uh, Thank you so much for listening.
So let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So once again, this is Rohitesh here. Uh, these are what you see on the screen is three books. One is the book on marketing management, and the other is on product strategy and management. Other is marketing warfare. These are books which cover product strategy at depth and length. The entire comprehensive coverage of strategy is in these books. Uh, the other is that a few cases from Harvard is what is gives you a very good perspective of product strategy. It is a vast topic, and what we shared is the tip of the iceberg. Uh, the subtopics are right from the product as a strategy. Uh, how do you tackle competition? Because at the core of handling competition is product. Then the analysis of portfolios, because product, when you talk of product, you have to build a successful product first and then build a portfolio next. So, uh, portfolio is extremely important. You are looking at a long term uh, business proposition, then you are looking at a portfolio, right? Uh, how do you develop a new product? There are certain steps, and 8-step approach is followed in this model. And there are some new models also which have slight changes of over the other model. So there is a typical model of development. How does the product strategy align with the other three P's? Very important to align it with the three P's. You can't be selling a product which is a premium product in a marketplace. It has to be very specific in terms of distribution. It has to be very specific in terms of uh, pricing. It has to be very specific in terms of competition. Then packaging has become extremely important because sensory factors, what is the color, what do you look at, what is the importance of packaging, what should be given in packaging, although a short topic, but still very important to be included along with the other P's. And then, of course, the life cycle. You are not looking at a product. There were so many products, like people started making masks at home, and then the sanitizers, and then the temperature guns. So the situation created products, and you have to look at a life cycle, right? If you are only going to look at some seasonal product, that's a different point of view. But there is a life cycle that has to be managed. Coca-Cola is 150 years old. There is no change of the formula of Coca-Cola, but it is such a big brand. Amul is 66 years old. The same butter, right? But then they have built a portfolio around it. So you have to look at managing uh, the product for a life. So there is a life cycle, right? And then there are so many new things which we just covered briefly. Neuromarketing or behavioral economics or digital marketing, and so many things, right? So all this very vast, but this is the intent is to look at these subtopics.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
okay,
Thank you.
so thank you, Rahul sir. Thank you, Rohitesh sir, for your time.
Thank you.